So here's the reality. Let me break it down for you. Children today are at risk of not acquiring some of the simplest of life skills which can affect their problem-solving ability. This morning, we discuss why it is so important to start teaching children some basic life skills from an early age with our creative parenting expert, Nikki Bush, who has brought all sorts of the most eclectic, actually, collection of little toys to play with. I've never seen Viennas and chocolate and noodles and a die on the same table, and a shoe just thrown in the mix. Nikki, what is going on here? Before we get into our fun stuff, why is it so important that we get these basic life skills in early, and why are we not developing these skills at an early age?
So Graham, it seems we have under-constructed children today because they're being over-parented, and there's too much over-direction, too much doing for children, and they're not acquiring basic life skills. And this translates, weirdly enough, into the academic environment as well. You know, we have this idea our children go to school to learn all the important stuff, but it's actually all these life skills that underpin everything. And just playing with what we're going to play with this morning, cutting up sausages, playing the chocolate eating game, and playing with some 2-minute noodles and tying shoelaces, actually provide the foundations in a fun way for fine motor control, eye-hand coordination, motor planning, which is how to plan a movement, spatial planning.
Dealing with frustration.
Dealing with frustration, and most importantly, problem-solving skills.
What age should this be laid down? What stage of our brain's development should we be getting these skills in?
They start from a really, really early age. So like a 2-year-old, for example, can start sorting and matching, say, the colors of their building blocks and putting them into different containers when they're tidying up and tidying away. But, you know, I went to a kids party 2 Saturdays ago, a bunch of 7-year-olds. So these are kids who are now in grade 1. Okay. And we played the chocolate eating game, which is a game where the kids all take turns to throw a dice, and whoever throws a 6 has to eat the chocolate. You usually have to put clothes on, and then you pick up the knife and fork, and you have to eat the chocolate. Now, I'm going to pretend you threw the 6. Now, can you please eat some chocolate with a knife and fork?
Part of a 7-year-old quite simply.
And kids love this game because now they're allowed to eat as much as they like while everybody else continues throwing the dice.
Does it have to be?
Until somebody else throws a 6. Sorry, I got that one. So, anyway, you can have that piece, just if you want to have it. Okay, but it's not the easiest thing to cut chocolate.
No, it's not.
Okay. But here's the thing. So here we are. A hot summer's day. This chocolate was near to melting. It was so soft, okay? And so you saw what you were doing just now. You were doing that, or you are doing that. Okay. Now, I had groups of 2 children. Groups of 10. 9 out of 10 of each of these groups could not hold a knife and fork like this. They actually, it was the way they tackled this that astounded me. They picked up the knives and forks like this, and then and these children are, you know, kids who have parents at home, or they were holding
Some of those parents are probably watching right now. Shame on
you. Okay, they were holding it like this. They couldn't work out that you had to, and then they were trying to saw. It was just so awkward. It was so odd. It was so like putting a dog in socks. You know when you put dogs and cats in socks?
Yeah, wearing a cat's paws.
This was foreign. Okay, and I just thought, now this is a problem. Because these are basic life skills. This is fine motor coordination. This is problem solving. What do I do to saw through this chocolate? They didn't know you had to saw. They didn't know you could put pressure on a knife.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
These are, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, like, you kind of give them over to someone else to learn these basic skills. At what point should you be when your child goes to school? Because teachers, obviously, they don't have the opportunity to be as focused. They don't get the time that they would, I'm sure, in most cases, absolutely love.
Well, they've got 18 to 25 children in a private school environment. Imagine trying to teach each child to use a knife and fork properly with that many children. So this is a parent's job. Now, I think that this is coming about because parents are not eating with their children, or they are eating in front of television on their laps, and maybe they're cutting their food up for their children because it's expedient. And in fact, during this afternoon, I was chatting to some of the parents, and one of the dads said, you know, we cut up our kids' meat and their chicken, I mean, because then there's no fuss and no bother.
Yeah, it becomes less
Meanwhile,
of a hassle, yeah.
we are not passing on the baton of responsibility to teach our kids life skills. You and I know how to do this. This is a complex movement. Most children don't. 1 child out of 10 knew how to do this. He'd obviously been exposed. That wasn't the problem. The children who couldn't do this, we're trying to do this. Now try and we're actually doing it quite well, but these are 7-year-olds, okay, and they found that very difficult and it wasn't working so well.
I feel superior today, I love it.
What fascinated me was then some children who were good at problem solving came up with this, that they could do it that way, but then the majority of the children couldn't do it at all. And they couldn't actually look at the other child who was making it happen, even if it wasn't like this.
And learn on the job, yeah.
And they couldn't even copy what the other child was doing. There was no problem-solving ability that said he's getting something right or she's getting something right. How are they doing it?
Oh, man.
And that sort of ability to learn from somebody else, it shattered me that they couldn't do it.
So we're going to activate those neural pathways. We're going to show you, because I think the parents out there also might need to activate those neural pathways. Absolutely love this. We're going to give you some practical steps on how you can start activating your own child's problem-solving ability, and they can be fun. Like I said, we're involving chocolate. When is chocolate ever involved in something this cool? And we're going to deal with the Viennas as well. We've got Nikki Bush staying with us all morning.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
A little earlier this morning, we started the conversation about the importance of parents teaching our children life skills at an early age, as early as possible. And we're continuing that conversation right now with our creative parenting expert, Nikki Bush, who has denied me my chocolate. I wasn't good enough. I'll have it once we're done, otherwise I'm going to be spitting chocolate throughout. But I love the fact that we're involving things that are really everyday. And that brings to bear the conversation here that basic life skills, things that we take for granted, children aren't taking on board. When we look at the link between school, by that stage, you would assume that they've got those life skills. What are the important life skills or problem-solving capabilities that a child should have by the time they get to school?
They must be able to toilet themselves, dress themselves, feed themselves, pack and unpack their own bags by themselves.
Basically live on their own. Basically go out and live on their own.
You know, sending them out to the wolves. But when you talk to teachers, the grade R, grade 1 teachers, even grade 2 teachers, they tell me all the time that children do not know how to unpack their bags if they're getting changed for swimming. Say it's swimming now. They don't know to put all their clothes on one chair so that everything's together. They don't know how to put socks in their shoes so they don't lose their socks. The basics. They don't know how to roll a swimming costume into a towel. So once they've had their swim and their cozy's wet,
put it in their bag.
They have no idea. And they often come to class saying, my mummy forgot to pack my book bag. My mummy forgot to pack my pens and pencils. It's always mummy's fault or daddy's fault. There's no sense of, but this is my bag, and school is my place, and I'm responsible for this. So if we don't start teaching them everyday life skills at home, how are they going to learn how to do this stuff at school?
How do we then get our children to take ownership of these things and to start that? Where do we begin the process? And I see this shoe nestled amidst our table of delicacies.
Okay, so while we're talking about the shoe, so I think today, because parents are busy, they're defaulting to buying Velcro shoes.
Yeah.
And what they're denying their children is the opportunity of this problem solving, of tying a shoelace. Now, I just crossed the midline, and it's fine motor control, eye-hand coordination.
Both sides of the brain.
Motor planning. There are so many steps in tying a shoelace. And this is like learning how to serve in tennis, or how to bowl in cricket, or how to swim freestyle or breaststroke. There are multiple steps in this, and if you take away your child's ability or opportunity to learn this stuff, they're not going to learn it. And then they don't have that neurological pathway. More than anything else, they don't have the confidence that comes with knowing I can solve this problem. I can do it by myself without my mum or dad.
And I'm glad you used the word confidence, because that is a big part of, I think, what hinders children from learning or being able to apply these things on their own, is that feeling like they're going to fail and not be able to do that in a social environment.
Well, here's the thing. If you do too many things for your children, they stop trying because they think you can do it better than them. So here's another little thing that I noticed on holiday. I was holidaying with a little boy who was 6, and we had Vienna sausages. We had hot dogs for lunch. Now, he doesn't eat the hot dog in a roll. He eats hot dog and a piece of apple and cheese. And I put the Viennas in front of him, and he said, please cut them up. But he's 6, turning 7. And I said, you can cut them yourself. And he says, no, I can't. And what I discovered is that he's at home often with the nanny in the afternoon, and she prepares his food for him. And he has never cut up a Vienna sausage.
Sausage canapes.
He has never cut a sausage up in his life with a knife and fork. So the lesson was, cut this into 4. But once again, he was like, didn't know where to start. Very bright child, but no life skills
The
in terms of the...
basics.
I said, cut it into 2, so we're doing fractions. Now make 4 pieces. We have 4
And
quarters.
I can picture you forcing him to do it.
And you know what? By the end of the first week, he was doing it all by himself.
And you've empowered him.
Sense of
And-
accomplishment.
Yeah, and I love that. Now, how do we, just maybe one last piece of advice as a starting and jumping off point for parents to turn their children from being helpless into helpful family members, society members? What advice do you offer?
So chores are part of family life. Everybody needs to get involved. And learning how to eat. Please eat at the dinner table. Please role model, table manners, how to cut with a knife and fork, how to hold things so that you don't look awkward. Just remember, guys, we are actually raising young children to become young adults. One day they will eat at a table with somebody who's going to offer them a job. If they eat like this, they will be fine. If they're sitting there eating like this, they're going to look blooming awkward. So I think we owe it to our children to help them put their best foot forward with confidence.
Schools are unforgiving places. I went to a boarding school. Best you know how to eat properly at a boarding school. Nikki, I love this. It's a fun way of activating the creativity, the problem solving, but it's starting to paint a much bigger picture as well at how important it is that your child knows how to solve problems themselves. Ultimately, you're helping them build confidence in their own abilities, and that's the best part.